Hey y'all, now that we know how to factor a little bit, factor out common factors, we're going to talk about factoring a trinomial, which is a polynomial that has three terms, and it's one of the most common ones that you're going to see in Algebra 2. So I call this the basic trinomials because the leading coefficient, the coefficient in front of the x squared, is 1. Okay, so our trinomial has a basic or general form of a times x squared plus b times x plus c. And here a is the number in front of x, it's the coefficient. And then the ones we're going to do today, a is going to be 1. B is the number in front of regular x, so in this case negative 17. And c is the constant here, plus 42. So right now we're just factoring trinomials where a equals 1. Okay, and we do have a strategy to do that. First thing we're going to do is we're going to find factors of 42. That means we're going to find pairs of numbers that multiply to equal 42. So we can get 6 times 7 gives us 42, 2 times 21, 3 times 14. And of course all of these work as well if both numbers are negative. Negative 6 times negative 7 gives us positive 42. Negative 2 times negative 21. Negative 3 times negative 14. So our goal here is to get the factors of c, so two numbers that multiply to be c, and we're going to pick the pair of numbers that multiply to be c that also add to be b, which in this case is negative 17. So we're going to go through here and find the factors that add to be negative 17. And if we do that, we would choose negative 3 and negative 14. Negative 3 and negative 14 multiply to be positive 42, and they add to be negative 17. So these are the numbers we're going to use to factor this trinomial. And in the end, we're going to have two sets of parentheses. And when we have a equal 1, we can always start by putting x at the beginning of each parentheses. And then we're going to take these two factors and we're going to plug them in. Minus 3 and minus 14. That is our trinomial factored. So remember, as a check, you can always multiply the factors together and make sure that you get the polynomial you started with. So we could do FOIL or the distributive property x minus 3 times x minus 14, and we should get x squared minus 17x plus 42. So again, I have three examples that I need to make smaller, just like I did the other day. I want you to factor each of these trinomials. Start by finding the factors that multiply to be c, so plus 25, plus 10, negative 20, and then pick the pair that also adds to be b, so in this case negative 10, 7, and 8. Give that a shot. So in this case, I have my factors of 25. I have a clue here. They need to both be negative. They both need to multiply to be positive and add to be negative. That means they both need to be negative, and it's going to be negative 5 times negative 5. So my factors are k minus 5 and k minus 5. Over here, both of my factors need to be positive because they need to multiply to be positive and add to be positive. So those are 2 times 5, and that gives us g plus 2 and g plus 5. Now just as a quick note here, if you got g plus 5 times g plus 2, so you had your order backwards, or different than mine, you're still right, because it doesn't matter which order that we multiply in. Here are my factors. One's going to have to be positive and one's going to have to be negative. So the clue there is that we need to multiply to be a negative and add to be a positive. So little clues here to help you pick your factors. In the first one, when we had a negative b and a positive c, I need two negatives. When I have two positives, I need two positives. And when I have a positive b and a negative c, I need a positive and a negative. And those factors are going to be 10 and negative 2. They multiply to be negative 20, add to be positive 8, so we get m plus 10 times m minus 2. But remember again, if you had m minus 2 times m plus 10, so you had these two parentheses switched, you're good to go. Now let's talk quickly about this kind of trinomial. Here a is still 1. The number in front of h squared is still 1. Okay, but we have two variables, h and k, and then we have k squared over here. So we're going to do the same thing that we did for the previous examples. We're going to multiply two numbers that give us negative 77 and also add to be negative 4. So those two numbers are negative 11 and 7. And finding these factors kind of comes with practice. These both multiply together to be negative 77. They add together to be negative 4. So we are going to write our factors, again, starting with h. And then since we have this second variable, k, we're going to put k at the end. And now in between here, we need to fill in our factors. So one is going to be minus 11k. The other will be plus 7k. And there's our two factors. The only difference here is that we had to put the new variable at the end of each factor. Again, if we multiply these back out, it would give us our original trinomial. So I'm going to ask you to, again, try these three, and then check your answers. Sorry about the interruption. My computer is not cooperating. So we can start each of these with an x at the beginning and a y at the end. And then the two numbers that multiply to be 24 and add to be 11 are a plus 3 and a plus 8. Here we'll start with a v and end with a w. The two numbers that multiply to be negative 48 and add to be positive 2 are plus 8 and minus 6. Here we'll start with an m, end with an n. Two numbers that multiply to be negative 60 and add to be negative 17 are negative 20 and positive 3. So remember again, if you had either of those parentheses out of order, we're okay because it doesn't matter which order we multiply. So we got 2 tries. Go ahead and give them a shot. We're factoring one regular trinomial and then one trinomial that has two variables that we just did on the previous slide.